Hey everybody, it's Sharon here. I haven't posted for a while, so I thought I would just share with you this quick little project that I kind of did on the spur of the moment. So last year I got a bunch of 1x6 cedar picket dog-eared fence pieces, and I used those for a couple of different projects, and I had some left over. If you recall, I used it for the deck garden that I made last year, and it's still holding up really strong. And we know that lumber prices are like crazy right now, so I wanted to reuse what I had left over. I also used them for my shutters for in the Kentucky cabin, and they've been holding up real well, so I thought I might as well try them again. So what I wanted this time was I bought a stencil because I wanted to make a medallion, you'd call it, in the house here. So I kind of drew out a plan. I had to flatten out some of those boards because they were a little bit damp, and that worked. Now these boards aren't meant for like fine finishings, so what I ended up doing was just running them through the planer. In fact, I only did it once, just enough to give it a little bit smoother texture. I did want to keep it kind of rough and rustic, but there's a certain point where you have to kind of clean up a few things. So once I did that, I just kind of grazed over the edges. I did not want to glue them together. I wanted the space between them, so I wasn't too concerned about them being straight. Now, if you've ever worked with cedar, they have a lot of knots, and I've learned the hard way, if you don't seal the knots first before you paint them, they're going to bleed right through it. So I ended up putting 2 coats of that on there just to make sure it wasn't going to bleed through. And then I had leftover chalk paint that I used for a sign, which this sign is going to go right above it. So I wanted to keep it similar. So after I painted them, I braced the back and made it about 42 inches. And I glued and screwed all of those boards to the back. And then for the fun part was cutting out the circle. So I had drawn it with, the pencil and the string in the middle and made the cut and figured, hey, that went really easy. Well, it did, until I realized on the other side I was cutting on the wrong line. So it ended up too small. But I did salvage it. I had to trim off some of the ends then that I already screwed on. But then after I did that, I just put the hooks on the back because I wanted it to hook with a wire. I had to repaint it, which I knew I was going to anyway. And then I just roughed up the edges a little bit and roughed up the paint. So now the moment of truth, I put it on there, and you can see that I used blue painter's tape to hold it down. Now, most people will use the spray adhesive and spray to the back of your stencil and then put it on the wood. But I didn't want that sticky stuff on my wood when I got done with it. Plus, I wanted to reuse the stencil as much as I could. And then I started using a foam roller, just a very light amount. This was just a flat white latex paint, and it worked. So I did the same thing with the other side. And again, just very gentle. And I ended up going in like a whole bunch of different directions just to make sure that, each corner was covered equally. Plus, I needed to make sure I put about the same amount of paint on that side as I had already done on the other side. So while the paint was still wet, took off all the the tape, and gently lifted it up. Now, the nice thing about this stencil, it's pretty stiff and sturdy. I thought for sure right there it was going to tear, and there really wouldn't have been much I could do, but it didn't. It held up just fine. So after I got that off there, I was really happy that it actually worked. I coated it with probably about 4 coats of lacquer on it, sprayed it in a couple different directions, and made sure I got all of the paint covered good. So the only thing left was to hang it. And thanks to Mr. Kapper, we got that up there. Now, talk about shrinkage. Yeah, it looked a lot smaller up there, but it still looks nice. You can see that it is barely inside of the circle, which, you know, if I would have had it cut at the right diameter like I planned on, it would have been a little bit bigger. So I think if I ever do it again, definitely want to make sure that I make it big enough. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with it, and it'll just add to our rustic decor. So hope you enjoyed this quick little project, and don't be afraid to try something new. Catch you later.